W. Edwards Deming, who was essentially the father of the quality improvement in the world, said of our field, education is miracle goals without methods. He, when he said it, was talking about Goals 2000. He could have said it about NCLB. He might have, if he were still alive, he might say it about the Common Core. This is part of a long history, I think, of inequitable access to innovation. Some of you may remember sort of Shirley Bryce Heath's classic work, Ways with Words, and the subsequent practical innovations that grew out of it, like having lots and lots of books in pediatricians' offices so moms could learn to read to their kids because of the power of doing that. And what investigators found was that there was a profound difference between the way advantaged moms and disadvantaged moms used these tools to read their children. More recently, my colleague at UCLA, Jane Margolis, wrote a marvelous book called Stuck in the Shallow End. And the message of Stuck in the Shallow End is that all these rich computer resources that are part of schooling today are used very, very differently in advantaged context and disadvantaged context. And a similar story is sort of is trumpeted in Mark Warschauer's book, Laptops and Literacy, where he really essentially, with few exceptions, traces from north to south, disadvantage to advantage, because in Maine, where this work was done, the closer you get to Boston, the more advantaged communities you find. And what he found was that these laptops the state spent a huge amount of money on were used more effectively as you went that way. So we as a field and as a community have many stories like this where you have some lighthouse innovation that we are convinced will change the world, and what we see is great variation in its take-up. When you invent a thing like this box, most of us think that our box is just great, and everybody should have the same box. In reality, we probably ought to be spending time to figure out exactly how to implement our box such that it serves the most people. Another way to think about that is in all complex systems, you're going to find huge variation. And often, when you find this variation, some of us perform well in those systems and others of us do not. The goal of our work and of quality improvement is to create excellent outcomes for all people, to lop off this part of the distribution and make advantage in this part of the distribution much more equitably distributed. But we have an aspiration chasm where you have some promising intervention. We have this goal of the promising intervention working for people reliably at scale. And like Deming, in the middle is the zone of wishful thinking. And inside the zone of wishful thinking is practice. And our work over the last several years has been trying to help us get a handle on what it means to pay attention to practice and what it means to learn from practice.